What is up, guys? You are tuned into the Casual Wrestling Monday Night Raw post show. I am Nerdy D, and if you are listening, you are part of the CWC, and this is the show where we join together to overreact and answer the biggest questions coming out of Monday Night Raw this week. But before we do that, do me a little favor, tap the like button. It only takes 2 seconds. Share this episode with someone you know. It helps YouTube know that you are listening, and it helps us grow the Casual Wrestling Army as we continue to chip away at the IWC stronghold over online wrestling conversation. Let's jump into the housekeeping for this week. Internal news, just same thing I talked about last week. The Casual PLE experience. Me and friend of the show, Milwaukee Mike, will be doing a monthly breakdown of WWE's premium live events, giving our predictions, hot takes. So mark that down on your calendar. The first episode will be dropping right before Survivor Series. And as I've hinted at the last couple of weeks, and I kind of confirmed last week, we are going to be moving into a new studio mid-December. It's looking like mid-December, maybe earlier, but at worst, it'll be mid-December. It's going to be more space. It's going to be more room to have guests and people come on and join the show. And we'll be able to do lots of cool stuff that we can't do inside of the current studio that we have right now. So working out the final details. I will let you guys know more as I know more, but let's jump right into the wrestling conversation this week with question number 1. So question number 1 is, Nerdy D, where was the Crown Jewel post show and what were your thoughts on the premium live event? So after I watched Crown Jewel, I decided against recording an entire podcast dedicated to Crown Jewel because I don't know that there was a lot for me to say. You know, Crown Jewel, it was an above average show if you ask me as far as wrestling goes, but as far as storytelling and surprises go, I think it might have been one of the safest premium live events that I've ever seen in WWE history. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that everything literally went according to a straightforward script that, you know, that we kind of knew was coming. It was above average as far as in-ring action goes, but for a storytelling and surprise department, it didn't move the needle at all for me. I think that Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre, pretty standard stuff. Kind of what we thought was going to happen. A great match, but once again, all of the fuss that was made for the last couple of weeks with Rhea Ripley whispering in people's ear, it didn't end up meaning absolutely anything. It was just a straightforward match that saw Seth Rollins going over cleanly. It was all about fucking nothing. And then you got Sami Zayn getting involved in the end, you know, stealing the briefcase. All that meant was that the Judgment Day and Superfriends story is not over yet. And I really didn't feel like jumping on a microphone and talking about that again, because a lot of this is just redundant. This is things I've been saying for the last couple of weeks that I didn't think needed to be said again. Like, we can talk about the Fatal 5-Way match if you guys want to, but it was exactly what I said it was going to be. It was either going to be a shit show or it was going to be one of the better matches of the night, and it ended up being one of the better matches of the night. The girls went out there and performed, and the crowd just absolutely didn't respond. We could talk about John Cena and Solo Sikoa if that's what you guys want to talk about, but it went exactly as we expected. Cena came out, gave Solo the rub. You know, all of this it's what we expected to happen. You know, maybe we expected it to happen even a little more intricate than it actually did, but it was what we thought it was going to be. Ultimately, we thought Solo was going to go over. I even thought there was an element of Cena winning, but instead of that, Cena just did the most selfless thing that he could do, and he gave Solo the victory. And he allowed him to spike him 37 times. But we knew as even casual fans, we knew that was going to happen. And I could talk about Cena being the most selfless veteran WWE has ever seen, but we've already had that discussion. We talked about that last week. You know, well, I guess I could dedicate 45 minutes to talking about Logan Paul versus Rey Mysterio, which was great as well. Another great match. Logan Paul going out of his way to save Rey Mysterio on kind of a botched off the ropes jump there. But I what more can be said? I guess we could talk about how Logan Paul confuses the fuck out of the IWC because he's more talented and over than literally at this point every person on the AEW roster not named Jon Moxley. We could talk about that, but it just feels redundant at this point. It felt like I could save that to talk about with you guys tonight. But we all knew Logan Paul was winning that match. We knew from the minute it was booked. I don't think it was a secret that in Io Sky's and Bianca Belair's match that Kyrie Sane was going to show up. I said it in the Discord at least 4 or 5 times because I think it was so reported and so talked about that we all knew it was that it was coming. Now, looking past the obvious fact, let's talk about Kyrie Sane a little bit. Looking past the obvious fact that most fans, especially casual fans, don't recognize Kyrie Sane. We don't know who she is unless we're told who she is. The idea that Triple H thought that a crowd full of obviously not interested, wrestling fans, not interested, but not interested in women's wrestling. It was obvious that crowd was not interested in women's wrestling. And the fact that Triple H thought that was the place that you introduced Kyrie Sane, that has me left a little bit baffled. I'm a little bit nervous about that. It feels like to me Triple H is sort of hell-bent on creating this IWC super faction that the internet wrestling community wants to see, that's going to feature some mixture of Asuka, Io Sky, Kyrie Sane. At a point, there was talks of someone named Sareee, who I don't know who that is, but now it's being reported that this Sareee has signed with another American promotion that's not AEW or WWE. So it looks like the plans altogether maybe those are on hold for right now. But I'd say that's probably for the best. Because I do think Triple H has a tendency to start listening to what the IWC wants to hear. And there's moments in time where I look at Triple H and sometimes I go, that's a very Tony Khan move that you're putting together there, Triple H. You're putting together a faction for a very niche subsection of fans that I don't know that WWE fans and casual fans are going to respond to real well. Triple H makes me nervous sometimes when he starts leaning into the dark side. The dark side of the internet is the internet wrestling community. When he starts to go too far and he starts reaching out and he tries to embrace the IWC and bring them back in to the WWE universe, he makes me nervous. I'm not against bringing factions together that are unfamiliar to me. I think that a lot of times that pans out to work. I didn't know Damage Control. I didn't know a lot about Dakota Kai or Io Sky, and it came together and I enjoyed it. What I don't like is dedicating world titles to that, and I don't like when it takes a certain amount of time to convince casual audiences the importance of who these people are, and then the payoff isn't really worth the time that was invested into it. That's what scares me as far as Triple H goes. Like, I'll admit, I'm not hardcore enough to have this deep Japanese history with Sareee or Kyrie Sane, and I'm not, but I am intelligent enough to know that the way they introduced Kyrie Sane into Crown Jewel was a big fat fail biscuit. Like that, there was zero reaction from that crowd. And if you're Triple H, you had to kind of see that coming. Maybe your ego gets in the way and you think that everything you do at this point, the fans are going to react to, but you had to sort of see this coming. You have to know the audience that's in front of you. I would go out on a limb and say that the Saudi crowd is a very casually commercial audience. I think that's safe to say. I think I can say that with a certain amount of confidence that they want to see the John Cenas. They want to see the Brock Lesnars. They like the names that are in big lights. I don't think if you polled most of the people in that arena that any of them actually knew who Kyrie was and the importance that she represented in anything that was going on at that moment. I think that Triple H is better off selling casual fans, a group that is based around Asuka and Io Sky, and then maybe adding Kyrie into that group slowly, or introducing her on a SmackDown where more people are receptive to the idea and more people may have an understanding of who she is. But that crowd just did not recognize her. And I think that there's a younger generation of WWE fans who are going to have absolutely no idea who she is when she shows up on SmackDown next week. I think that faction can work. I do believe that faction can work. I just think you have to be very particular and very careful how you bring it together. And I think that faction will actually work, pitting them against Bayley and a Damage Control 2.0 that maybe you pluck a couple people from NXT and you rebuild that group. But the only other real concern that I have coming out of Crown Jewel is how SmackDown deals with where its titles are right now. Because if you talk about, Roman Reigns, apparently Roman's taking time off till 2024. I don't understand how that happens, because I'm not real clear on how you come out of what happened with LA Knight without him bitching and complaining that he deserves another opportunity. They'll figure it out, and I'm sure they'll bring somebody out to, smoke and mirror us into another situation, but I don't fully understand how we get there. And I'm sure that, WWE's done this thing, and they've brainwashed a lot of people. And I haven't drank the Kool-Aid yet, but they brainwashed a lot of people into believing that the less Roman Reigns is on TV and the less the WWE title is on TV, the more important and special it makes it feel. And I'm confused on how they've sold that to the audience, because I can only imagine that the Fox network doesn't believe that, and the USA networks don't believe that, and advertisers don't share that same sentiment. So I don't understand how you can tell me if it's not best for business, how is it best for the viewers? They're going to have to explain that to me. But Roman's going until 2024. So there's no WWE title on television from November, what was that? Whatever it was this last weekend until January, whatever, when we have the Royal Rumble. And here's the harsh reality. Io Sky, she's not a needle mover. So people aren't going to be tuning in to see what's happening there. Sure, she's a great part of SmackDown, but she's not a needle mover. Triple H better figure out what he's doing with this new faction and bring them together quickly and make sure that they're a hit in whatever shape or form they take, that they're a hit and that they connect with the audience. Because if not, that title will become irrelevant very quickly. That will become the secondary women's world title extremely fast with what Rhea Ripley's doing on the other side of the WWE roster. And then you got Logan, right? Logan Paul's the big question mark here, because is Logan a full-time wrestler? Is he going to show up every week, or is Logan Paul going to show up once every 3 weeks and just check in on us in the WWE universe to see how we're doing? WWE really has to start reeling in these champions a little bit. I think it's gotten a little bit out of control with the amount of time some of these guys are allowed to take off. If you're holding a title belt, I think you need to be present. I spent the last month hyping up SmackDown and talking about it being the A side. It was the best show. And for a few weeks, it ascended to that level. But Raw has quickly stepped its game up. Raw has a world champion who is a dog. I don't love Seth Rollins, but he works. He's working every night. He's working tonight. He's working premium live events. He is there every night. And you can say what you want about the World Heavyweight Championship, but it starts to feel important when it's showing up on television every week. And we remember, let's not play the game that we don't remember what Raw looked like just maybe a year ago when it had no major title, when they were trying to sell us on the United States Championship being an actual prize, and they had Seth Rollins and they had Bobby Lashley and they had Austin Theory, and we see what happens. That belt never got over the way they wanted it to. Now, my suspicion is Logan Paul's going to show up. I really believe. I think he's having fun. I said it a couple weeks ago. I think he's found his comfort zone in WWE where he can be who he wants to be. And I think he will make his presence felt on a weekly basis. Is it always going to be in person? Probably not. Is it going to be some phone calls and some call-ins and some pre-cut videos? Sure, it probably is. And I don't love it, but at least he will be present. Here's the thing. Logan Paul has an opportunity. He has an opportunity to move up that kind of superstardom ladder and really be a leader and a star on SmackDown. Logan Paul could put together a little career here that actually leads to him being a Hall of Fame caliber wrestler if he's not careful. And if he actually shows up and he puts the effort into it, which I'm going to go on record, I think he's going to do it. I think for Logan Paul, this United States title run, this is just the beginning. This is a test. This is an audition. It's an audition for something bigger. They're seeing, how does the crowd respond? How does Logan respond? Does he show up? Is he willing to commit to 3 months, to 6 months, to a year? Could we put a world title on Logan Paul? It's all just an audition. I think they can take this right now. What you have with Logan Paul, you can take this and parlay it into a feud with LA Knight. If Roman's not showing up, I think you can swing this all around to LA Knight, and we'll get exciting TV for the next couple of months. Logan versus LA Knight, they've teased it before. We thought it was coming. I think it works. I think they found a way to back in themselves into an interesting story. But the truth is, man, Crown Jewel, it's a Saudi premium live event. It's meant to be a crowd pleaser. It's never been an event that really pushed stories, forward like we like them to be pushed forward. It was a fun watch. It is something that starts at noon. It eats up half of your day, and you really got to be committed to sit there and watch it. But, I think like a lot of other casual fans, I'm ready to move on past Crown Jewel and start talking about Survivor Series, because I think that's where the real fun starts. That's where we get to see what are they going to do to get us through that cold winter. The rumors start to swirl around. And I think that LA Knight survived his loss to Roman Reigns. I think that the ref interference and the crowd counting to 3 keeps him viable as a big star. He can boast, he can brag about actually beating Roman Reigns without actually beating Roman Reigns. I think that, yes, was that match the cookie cutter formula of how we expect every Roman Reigns match to go? Sure, it was, but it was still fun. It was still exciting. In a nutshell, yeah, what we expected, but that's what Crown Jewel was. Crown Jewel was everything that we expected. It played exactly to, if you were writing just the most straightforward script for how you go from point A to point B, Crown Jewel was it. It was a straight line of just straight WWE style booking. All right, question number 2. Nerdy Deep. We now finally know what the men's War Game match is going to be at Survivor Series. What are your thoughts on the Judgment Day versus the Super Friends? So I think this answer is going to surprise some people. I'm guessing that everybody's expecting me to jump on here and just take a big, hot, steamy shit on the Super Friends. But it's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a different approach here because, you got to think logically. We've literally spent the last 3, 4, 5 months building towards some version of this match. What we saw go down at the end of Raw has what we've been building to with every main event for the last, it feels like probably 5 months. I almost feel like at this point, with the amount of time that we've invested into this story, we are owed a resolution at this point. I'd almost feel slighted if this is, if this wasn't what we got at Survivor Series. And there were a few things that happened on Raw that kind of helped ease the pain of knowing that it's the Super Friends. The Super Friends are reunited and they're going into War Games together. I liked the fact that Adam Pearce acknowledged seemingly that this has gone on too long. We've seen this week in and week out. It's time to finish it. I think he kind of called for the finality of this story. And I love that they put Adam Pearce in the ring to make the match official. Adam Pearce has stepped up as general manager. I think the general manager thing is absolutely working. I thought it was going to work great on SmackDown. Adam Pearce has stepped up into that role and been extremely good on Monday Night Raw. So I love that they put him in there. I love the intensity to which he announced that match, and I think this just makes sense. We may not love it, but it makes sense for what we have. This is what it has to be. I even like the fact that leading into it, it was Sami versus Seth that led into the announcement, that led into the attack, that it was almost just, it was kind of fitting. It was just the one version of all these superstars we probably haven't seen in the ring up until this point. Now, I'm going to agree with my amigo Milwaukee Mike, who jumped into the Discord and kind of let his feelings be known that, you know, this was the poker hand we had at play here. I don't know what everybody was expecting. I don't know what anybody thought that they were going to do at Survivor Series besides this. We could hope, we could dream, we could pretend, but this is what we've been believing. You know, this is what we've been building to. And I'm a huge believer. Well, this isn't my favorite circumstance. If you let me start 6 weeks ago, I probably could have built something better than this, but this is what we have. And there's actual story behind it. There's enough that's led up to this point that I can believe these guys want to get into a cage and fight each other. WWE could have gone the normal WWE route. They could have thrown 8 random guys into a ring and done the typical shit show that definitely I would have got on this microphone and complained about. What does this mean? Why are we doing this? When it comes to this, I really don't have complaints. It's just not my favorite thing to see. Now, I've also seen some people that aren't in favor of even having a WarGames match. I've seen this on Twitter and on Instagram. And the only answer I have to that is, that's commercialism, man. The Royal Rumble is every January. We know it. We expect it. We get excited for it. You're going to have to get used to WarGames being in November. They fed it to us last year. It was successful. They're going to feed it to us again this year. It's going to be successful. And this is going to be the November thing until we stop responding. These type of things sell tickets, right? These are attractions. This is the evolution of Hell in the Cell. These big gimmick matches move tickets. Not that this event needed to move tickets, but they know for sure this kind of thing moves tickets. And, like it or not, the Superfriends are a faction at this point. WWE hasn't labeled it, but we as casual fans have labeled them a faction. And the Judgment Day is a faction. And this has been long overdue. This is the payoff. This is the payoff of 5 months of Superfriends versus Judgment Day and main event matches that we've had to endure on Monday Night Raw. We're going to have to fucking see this thing through. We can't get impatient now and go, give me something different. Nuh-uh. We rode this roller coaster. We're going to go down that last drop. But here's the funny little element that I don't think people are taking into consideration when they talk about this match, because I've seen a couple people talking about it, and I think that I might be onto something, that there's elements at play that could make this WarGames different from WarGames matches we've seen in the past. I think maybe for the first time ever, we're talking about a WarGames match that's going to feature the current Money in the Bank briefcase holder and the champion in the ring at the same time. That's a dangerous combination. That means at any point in time, I believe, during or post-match, Damian Priest can cash in his briefcase. There is possibly a scenario where Judgment Day loses the WarGames match, but walks out of Survivor Series with the new world champion. That adds a nice little wrinkle to this story. Now, here's another little wrinkle that I could possibly see happening. Right now, we're locked in with a 4v4 WarGames match. I think it's pretty obvious that old Drew McIntyre's floating around and that Rhea Ripley's been whispering in his ear. And I think after losing to Seth Rollins, he may want a little bit of vengeance. So I think that you're probably going to get Drew McIntyre joining the Judgment Day for Survivor Series. That's going to leave one open spot on the Superfriends. Well, we know what that is, right? We know that the excitement and the anticipation is going to start to build up. Here's my issue. If this is what happens, and I'm guessing this is where we're headed, who is it? Is it Randy Orton? Is it CM Punk? If it's not CM Punk, you have to fill this spot before Survivor Series. This can't be a last minute thing. If you allow, the worst thing WWE could do is allow the Chicago crowd to have hope that CM Punk is showing up. If it's going to be Randy Orton, he's got to show up on one of the Monday Night Raws before Survivor Series and kind of lay that to rest. If it's going to be CM Punk, I guess you could wait. I don't foresee it being CM Punk. I don't see any reason why you would make it CM Punk. I think, but here's the problem. This is the big problem, right? I think if you're WWE, You're going to have to make it very clear. And I know you try to do it by going through dirt sheets, but this is one of those rare times where you might have to just point blank come out, look into a camera, and say, CM Punk is not going to be here. He will have no part in this show. Because I think Chicago's the type of crowd that will hijack the show if they even have 10% hope that he's going to be there. Because we got a couple CM Punk. I don't know if anybody caught it. There were some sneaky CM Punk chants tonight on Raw. And that's only going to get louder. And as long as they let that, no pun intended, CM Punk theme song, they let that fire burn, that fire's going to burn. And it's going to burn out of control. And what makes me nervous is when you look at the card from top to bottom, you have to look for the spots where if CM Punk is going to show up, where can he actually be inserted into the card that makes sense? Now, could he be the fifth member of a Survivor Series team? Sure. I think he could. I don't like it. I don't think that's where you put him. Seth Rollins is involved in the WarGames match. I don't think you put him on Seth Rollins' team. There's going to be no world title fight. So we know CM Punk's not coming in to get involved in either a Roman Reigns situation or a Seth Rollins situation. So I think it's what we've anticipated. We got to keep our eye on Shinsuke Nakamura. How does Shinsuke Nakamura get booked, and how does he move as we get closer to Survivor Series? I think that will be telling. If Shinsuke gets a match locked in and it doesn't make sense, then we have to assume maybe Punk shows up and interferes or becomes involved in that in some way. It's crazy. It is crazy to believe that, we're 2 weeks out and this is going to get loud. It's going to get real loud. The internet's going to get real loud, and it can't be lost on WWE. The magnitude that CM Punk the amount of just media and internet chatter that would go on if CM Punk shows up at Survivor Series. Like, I get it. You got to downplay this a little bit, because if he's not coming, I think, that there will be people who are disappointed. If he is coming, you don't want to ruin that surprise. But to talk like CM Punk is this back pocket option, I think that's fucking crazy. Like, he's not a back pocket option. If CM Punk shows up, people are going to lose their shit. There will be people crying. There will be people whose emotions become so overwhelmed that they lose their shit. And I don't think WWE is naive to that. I think they understand. So, I mean, the question we're going to talk about it for the next 2 weeks. Is CM Punk showing up, or is he not showing up at WarGames? All right, question number 3 this week. Nerdy D. Was Zoey Stark the correct choice to win the women's battle royal to face Rhea Ripley? Was she my choice? No, she wasn't my choice. Is she the correct choice? I guess that's a subjective question. Like, I guess it depends on how you view this situation. I now view this situation as Rhea Ripley is holding on to the title until WrestleMania. She is no longer in danger, as far as I'm concerned, of losing that title until WrestleMania. I think Nia Jax was the one person who I thought possessed the biggest threat to taking the title off of Rhea Ripley at some point and making things interesting up until Royal Rumble while they had time to kind of play around with title reigns. But, after Royal Rumble, you're booking for WrestleMania. And so now I think when you look at this and you look how this has played out, it's pretty safe to say I think Rhea holds the title. And just on a side note, I want to say, shout out to Nia Jax. She's been more entertaining in this last run than I've ever seen her. So I want to give props where props are due for that. But let's be realistic. As casual wrestling fans, let's be realistic. Zoey Stark isn't a threat. She's not a threat to Rhea Ripley. Like, not this close to WrestleMania season. There's no world where Zoey Stark takes the title from Rhea Ripley and devalues what you've built for the last year as far as Rhea Ripley goes. I think, like I said, I think that Nia Jax beating Rhea Ripley would not have hurt her credibility. I think Zoey Stark beats Rhea Ripley one-on-one, even with help from someone like Shayna Baszler or something like that. I think, ultimately that hurts Rhea Ripley. But the path seems pretty clear to me. Like, if you look through your crystal ball and you look ahead to WrestleMania, the crash course that we're on is what we thought we were on for the longest time, is Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, WrestleMania 40. That's where they're headed. I'm not a huge fan of it, but that's the booking that makes sense. If you're booking Raw and you're looking at your two biggest stars, your two biggest ticket movers, it's Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. Now, I would love a third wild card name thrown into that match. Maybe a Jade Cargill if she's ready. Maybe someone else who's got enough credibility to kind of throw a little funk and swerve into the match. I don't love the optics of just Becky Lynch versus Rhea Ripley, but there are a number of fans who will enjoy that match. Now, on the flip side of what I'm talking about here, do I think that Zoey Stark and Rhea Ripley will put on a quality match? Sure. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be entertaining. I think it'll be, technical and pretty to look at. I just don't think there's no expectation of Zoey Stark even having a chance to win that match. I think it'll be fun. And I think in the long-term scheme of things that the opportunity will be invaluable for Zoey Stark. It'll be a defining moment in her career. It's an opportunity to kind of get a taste of what being in one of those big matches feel like. And it's also a little bit of a litmus test to see how close or how far Zoey Stark is from being able to lead a women's division, right? Rhea Ripley's the dog. She's top of the fucking food chain. And so you're going to have to learn real quickly how credible. I think, we did this with Liv Morgan. People may like you, the fans may get behind you, but when the spotlight turns on, it's hot. And how realistic is it for you to stand in that spotlight? We will see quickly. But right now, I can tell you, point blank, Zoey Stark isn't Rhea Ripley. Nobody is Rhea Ripley, to be honest with you. Nobody's on Rhea Ripley's level. She has separated herself from the pack. She is above Becky Lynch. She is above Charlotte Flair. She is above Bianca Belair at this point in time. That's why, honestly, to me, I think that the best WrestleMania match you could make right now, that while the iron is hot, is Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, with Bianca Belair chasing going into WrestleMania. That is prime real estate. You have Bianca doing what she does best. You have Rhea doing what she does best. And then meeting on that big stage, I think it would make for the biggest possible women's match in pro wrestling. On the flip side, you do Charlotte and Becky on the other side. I know it's been done before, but I still think every time those two get into the ring, it works. And so in my personal opinion, that's what I do. But I think it would be interesting to see, how WWE is going to use Jade Cargill as we get closer to WrestleMania, because, you have options. Do you continue like this dominant streak that she had in AEW? Or is WWE going to book her into a more human role where, she picks up some early losses? If I'm booking Jade Cargill, I think that I just have her destroy NXT. I think I have her run through the roster, dominate everybody, break every record you have, however long that takes. I don't know what the records are. Is it Asuka? No, it's Mandy Rose, right? Mandy Rose is the longest running NXT champion. I believe that's correct. Have Jade Cargill smash that. Have her smash all of those records. And then the long-term play is to call her up right around WrestleMania 41 to come in and attack whoever is champion at that point in time. I don't think there needs to be any rush in bringing her up. I think the women's division is in extremely good hands. You don't need to throw another megastar into that mix right now. Give her time to simmer. I saw a little bit of negativity on the internet towards the women's battle royal tonight. But what people have to remember is that battle royal is a showcase of the varying skills that exist within the women's division on Monday Night Raw. That's not just, they didn't throw all the top talent in there. There was obviously a plethora, a spectrum of talent that was thrown into the ring, right? Maxine is still evolving. Maxine has a long way to go, but I think that she could become a very likable character. And then you have Ivy Nile, who is somebody I don't recognize. I don't know who she is, but first impressions mean a lot. I saw a pretty good first impression right there. That was a breath of fresh air. Chelsea Green, she's solidified herself as a consummate entertainer on Monday Night Raw. Every week she's entertaining. That match wasn't meant to show off how great everybody was. I think that match was more a flex of the current and future talent that exists on Monday Night Raw. Like, look, we have current superstars and we have people that are in the making. I even like the way they implemented the Xia Li and Becky Lynch story into that battle royal. I like where that's headed. I think Xia Li is going to force Becky Lynch to be more serious and get her away from this babyface for dummies formula that Becky's been using, because she is so far ahead of everybody else that she really doesn't have to work. And I think putting her kind of behind the eight ball here with Xia Li and Xia Li getting the best of her, we'll see a different version of Becky Lynch that I'm excited to see. But circling back to Zoey Stark, I can make the argument at this point that Rhea Ripley now needs credible opponents that just won't suffer too much from taking losses. That's where we're at with Rhea Ripley, right? We know she's not losing, so now we've got to create credible situations for people who, when they lose to Rhea Ripley, it doesn't completely ruin their career. If that's the criteria, Zoey Stark is the right choice. So we circle back to the question. Is she the right choice? Yeah, I think so. I think here, if we look at the women's division and we look, I think everybody's trending upward, but I think there's one person who's getting a little bit left out in the cold, and I think that's Raquel Rodriguez. I think she's somebody who was, at a point in time, it felt like she was on the right path with Rhea Ripley, and now it kind of feels like she's on the outside of what's going on. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because I still believe that Raquel Rodriguez needs some tweaks to her character. I think that she would benefit from a couple weeks off. Like, disappear, show back up at the Royal Rumble with a slightly tweaked gimmick, and I think all will be fine. But as far as I'm looking at it right now, I think Raquel Rodriguez has lost a little bit of her charm. I think, I hate to use the word corny, but I think at this point, she's become a little bit corny. I think she could benefit from, like I said, a little break, coming back. I think there's a real possibility of inserting her into the LWO situation, because I think we're headed towards LWO Civil War. That's what all the dirt sheets seem to think. That's kind of what the booking has insinuating. I think now that the United States title is out of there, we can finally get to the Santos Escobar versus Rey Mysterio story that's been brewing for now almost 3 months. But yeah, Zoey Stark, perfectly fine. Good opponent for Survivor Series. I think by Royal Rumble, Nia Jax will be built back up. We'll do Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley one-on-one at Royal Rumble. And then right after that, you start to build towards Becky versus Rhea Ripley. I think Becky could win the Royal Rumble. There's strong possibilities. Here's the deal. It's going to be either Becky, Bianca, or Charlotte that wins the Royal Rumble this year on the women's side. I can almost guarantee you that. All right, last question this week. Nerdy D, you were right about The Miz being the winner of the Fatal 4-Way IC match. My question is, did you like the finish? And when and where does this match happen, given Gunther's history of not defending on premium live events? To start off, to answer that question, I'm pretty sure that they made reference that the title shot is at Survivor Series. Unless I misheard, I think it was pretty clear that that's where that match is happening. So we'll clear that up from the jump. Gunther versus Miz is a Survivor Series match, and Gunther will be on a premium live event. I think to kind of clear up the Gunther stuff, I think his lack of title defenses is one, because he can't travel outside the United States. So when they do something overseas, right now he can't do those kind of things. And I think number two is that Gunther's just such a big draw for Monday Night Raw right now that they like to keep him on televised matches. I think the Intercontinental title is being treated like a television title right now. It's a match that, it's a title that headlines Monday Night Raw more often than not. But let's talk about The Miz, because this is a Miz topic. Let's talk about the wonky finish that we got on Monday Night Raw that I've seen people debating. I don't think that was the planned finish. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think this was Ricochet fucked this up. I think Ricochet was not supposed to kick out of the pin with Ivar. I'm assuming that the finish was Ivar and Miz get pins at the same time, and it leads to both guys thinking they're the winner, which leads to Miz versus Ivar next week on Monday Night Raw for the number one contender spot. I think they were going to bleed this out a little longer than it actually went. Something went wrong, And I think they improvised. I think the post-match beatdown was Ivar on the fly trying to figure out and salvage what happened. But none of that is really important. I think that the Miz was ultimately going to be the winner here. Now what? You can still have them fight next week. You can still do the bullshit where, Miz, because of the confusion in that finish, we're going to give Ivar a shot. You could do it however you want. You can get there with any bullshit you want, but ultimately the right man won that match. Now, what I think we need to talk about more importantly than all of the botched finishes is how quickly the Miz has won the crowd back over. Now, I had no doubt. I told you guys last week that I thought Miz was fully capable of being babyface and being heel. I just thought he was a better heel than he was babyface. We're 1 week into this thing, and the Miz looks like he's probably top 5 babyface on the roster. I don't know if it was just inserting new moves. I don't know what he did. I can't even put my thumb on what he did, but all of a sudden the crowd was behind Miz and wanted the Miz to win that match for a guy who is typically loathed by hostile crowds. That crowd immediately got behind the Miz. And I don't know if it was planned, but there were 2 beautiful storylines that came out of this match. The crowd absolutely loved when Ivar and Bronson Reed locked up. You've got something going there. That match has Big Show versus Mark Henry vibes written all over it. It's ring implosion time. I'm a sucker for a good ring implosion. So you pick the time and place, and let's blow that motherfucker up. Let's have the ring fall apart, because I don't care how many times they do that shit. I get excited like a fucking little boy. I love that shit. But then also, you coming out of that, we got the Miz and Gunther. And I don't think we understand that the Miz and Gunther works on so many levels. I didn't see this coming, but the Miz and Gunther absolutely works on multiple levels. Here's the thing. Most likely, the outcome's going to be the Miz puts Gunther over and Gunther's reign continues. But if WWE wants to get crafty, there's some fun subplots that they could tap into and play with to bleed the actual juices out of this. Gunther has already set the record. We really don't have to talk about the record anymore. He doesn't need consecutive wins to be important at this time. He just needs to have a title because they're building him towards an ultimate World Heavyweight Championship win. But for now, he is the IC guy. That's who he is. But if The Miz was to upset Gunther and win the Intercontinental Championship, it would tie him with Chris Jericho for the most Intercontinental title reigns in WWE history. That gets a little interesting. That might make it a little bit fun. That gives me a little bit of hope that maybe we fuck around and find out that they want to do something special with The Miz and Gunther. Here's the second thing. If The Miz wins that title and holds on to it for 3 weeks, it would make him the longest running Intercontinental Champion in the history of WWE. Now, we know WWE's infatuation with putting big slogans up about records and nice graphics. Those are 2 graphics that you could boast about. And they don't really hurt Gunther, right? Miz could go over, win the match, go on a 3-week run, and then just get absolutely smashed by Gunther in a couple of weeks. And I don't think it hurts Gunther. I don't think taking a loss to Miz hurts him. I think it could be viewed as one of the greatest Intercontinental Champions of all time getting one up on the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. And it could be used as a wake-up call for Gunther and like a lesson where Gunther then comes back more focused, more aggressive, and just smashes the shit out of The Miz 4 weeks from now. I think that works. That could be fun. There's a lot of story to tell there. I'm still convinced WrestleMania, we're getting Gunther versus Sheamus. That's the play to make. Too much emotion with Sheamus winning the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. I think that they had those big matches, last year between Drew, Gunther, Sheamus. I think by WrestleMania, it'll be fresh again. You could get the crowd behind Sheamus going for that record of being a Grand Slam champion. So I think that's where it goes. I think that also clears Gunther up to start preparing for the World Heavyweight Championship by then. I think Germany is the goal. I think the fact that they're doing a premium live event in Germany lets you know that by that time or at that time, that is where Gunther becomes the world heavyweight champion. But man, Survivor Series is sneakily taking form after one night. If you look, they already built 3 matches. Tonight we got Rhea Ripley versus Zoey Stark. We know the Superfriends are fighting the Judgment Day, and we know Gunther and Miz. We got to assume there's going to be a women's WarGames match. You know, I'm guessing, just shot in the dark here, Team EO versus Team Bayley. That might work. Or does Kyrie join Damage Control and you do some form of that? I don't know. It makes sense. I think if you've got one coming from Raw, the other probably will come from SmackDown. I will say, I don't know what it is, and I can't tell you why I'm feeling this, but I have the weird casual kind of spider sense tingle going on in the back of my head that the way things are playing out, the way these free agents are kind of lining up and starting to side with WWE more than AEW, I get the vibes that Sasha Banks may return to WWE at some point in the near future. It's feeling more real to me. It feels like she could come back and realign herself with someone like Bayley. And you know, it was always talked about that the big match to make was going to be Jade Cargill versus Sasha Banks. Now the only place that can happen is in WWE. That can't happen in AEW anymore. And you got Kyrie Sane, who was Sasha's opponent in Japan. And some of these other names that are rumored to be coming to WWE, I think, are people that Sasha has notably wanted to wrestle. So I think the stars are kind of aligning for Sasha to come back to WWE. That, no information there. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. That's just me kind of looking at the way the sea is parting and going, that would make sense. Like, there's not a lot to like for Sasha Banks in AEW unless she just absolutely wants to be the number one superstar on the roster. I think if she looks at WWE, she goes, Vince is gone. Don't have to deal with that bullshit no more. Triple H is booking more in my style of booking. It feels like Sasha could come home and be pretty comfortable with the way things are going. But I think LA Knight has a match more than likely. We know we're not getting Roman Reigns. Probably guessing we don't get Logan on the card because I just don't see a reason to have the United States and the IC title both defended. We had five title defenses at Crown Jewel. I think we can cool it on title defenses at Survivor Series. Let the Survivor Series matches be the big features. But I think SmackDown sets up a few more spots, but I'm excited, man. Thanksgiving, Survivor Series. This is that last big kind of heartfelt push for WWE before we go into that cold winter. And so, you know, this is where they get to set up what we're going to see going into WrestleMania. Let's talk about some news before we get out of here. Oh, WWE star Logan Paul teases a match with a fellow celebrity wrestler. Logan Paul is currently flying higher than usual, having just won the United States Championship after defeating Rey Mysterio at Crown Jewel this past weekend. At the moment, Paul has no challengers for the championship lined up, though his issues with Mysterio and the rest of LWO could lead him into the crosshairs of a fellow celebrity, Bad Bunny, who aligned with LWO earlier this year when he defeated Damian Priest at Backlash. I like it. This could work. There's potential there. Shit. If you're going to use the United States Championship to promote WWE outside of WWE, let's go all in. I'm not mad at the idea of Logan Paul defending this belt against a bunch of kind of fringe celebrity-based wrestlers. I think he could even use it as a way to skirt LA Knight and frustrate LA Knight for the next couple of months. You know, with the megastar claiming, I am the megastar. You need to fight me. I'm a megastar. And Logan going, no, I'm going to go fight real stars. I'm going to go, because I think there's money in doing Pat McAfee versus Logan Paul. For the United States Championship, imagine the promos that we would get. It would be ridiculous. Imagine the outside media attention that WWE would get just from the two podcasts, just from Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive, and the Pat McAfee show. That it's ridiculous. I can already see the IWC rolling their eyes at the shit I'm saying because, you know, this is the type of shit that pisses them off. They still view Logan Paul, Pat McAfee, Bad Bunny, they still view that as like Maria Menounos and Snooki coming to wrestle. They still can't accept that people like Logan Paul and Pat McAfee have shown up and done it better than like their beloved AEW stars. But this is the reason that no other wrestling company will ever catch WWE, because their ability to promote ridiculous matches like this is second to none. Like it doesn't feel gimmicky. They'll do this in a way that makes sense. Bad Bunny, biggest musician in the world. You want to get people's eyes on the product? You bring in Bad Bunny. Logan Paul, one of the biggest podcasts in the world. You want to get that younger demographic? You bring in Logan Paul. Pat McAfee, one of, if not the biggest sports platforms on the internet. So you're talking about three audiences that can immediately be engaged and brought in right around WrestleMania season. Come on, man. It's a no-brainer. This is where WWE separates themselves from other companies. WWE is absolutely in the picture to sign Will Ospreay. So I think I said that right. I always fuck that up. It's Ospreay. I wrote it down. I believe it's Ospreay. I even wrote it down as AHSPRAY. I guess. I don't know. New Japan Pro Wrestling's Will Ospreay could be a WWE superstar soon enough. Ospreay currently competes for New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he is the reigning IWGP United Kingdom States heavyweight champion. The Brit's contract with the promotion will expire in February of next year. Ospreay has hired Barry Bloom to oversee negotiations for his next contract. Bloom helped negotiate the AEW deals for the Elite that were signed earlier this year. All right, cool. This is one of those awkward situations where I've spent the last year talking shit about a guy that the IWC admires, only to realize now this guy might be on my team. This guy might be on my brand of wrestling. I to be honest with you, I don't have anything against Will Ospreay. I think that, a lot of IWC darlings, he's overrated. I don't see what makes him so special. He does a lot of flips, a lot of X's and O's shit. That's what the IWC gets off on. Cool. That's y'all's brand of wrestling. Maybe he joins WWE and he shows me what I've been missing. From what I've seen, he just no-sells a bunch of matches with Kenny Omega and they drop each other on their head and the IWC loses their shit. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe like I said, would I be happy if he signs with WWE? I guess. I guess I'm indifferent. Am I disappointed if he doesn't? No, not at all. So it's one of those things where I guess I can eat my words if he comes in and proves me wrong and all of a sudden Will Ospreay is my new favorite wrestler. I guess that's a possibility. I'm doubting that happens. Like, I saw a meme on Facebook that asked, would you rather have CM Punk or Will Ospreay in WWE? And it literally, the first thing I read when I read that was, are you a casual wrestling fan? Or are you a part of the IWC? Because if you're a casual wrestling fan, you want CM Punk back in WWE. If you're part of the IWC, you want Will Ospreay. Now, will we take them both? Sure, we'll take everybody at this fucking point because you know what? We want to fucking win. But, I'm like I said, could care less. Last news story here. Ric Flair would love to have a woo-off sequel with Jay Lethal in AEW. Ric Flair is now All Elite. The Nature Boy made his AEW debut this past October, surprising Sting by announcing he will be by his side throughout his current retirement tour, because why let him have the spotlight to himself? While Flair has just had the one segment in AEW thus far, he is scheduled to be at AEW Full Gear later this month and has noted his desire to attend AEW Revolution next spring, the site of Sting's final match. While all of this indicates that Flair's AEW tenure would be just tied to Sting, things have changed when AEW announced that they have signed the 16-time world champion to a multi-year contract. Guys, this is great news. There is zero chance that Ric Flair does not wrestle at some point in AEW. This solidifies it. This kind of crazy shit, this egotistical talk where he's inserting himself into stories. The IWC really thinks that we want to see a 74-year-old guy wrestle. After the last time he wrestled, he passed the fuck out. He fell asleep or some shit. Like, Ric Flair, he's on his media tour. He's on his egotistical media tour, which means he wants back in the ring. He suggested a promo battle with MJF. A promo battle with MJF, which was just code for Will you wrestle me, MJF? Will you let me get in the ring with you? I'm sorry, guys. I get it. I probably sound like a broken record at this point. I annoy myself a little bit when it comes to this stuff, right? But AEW's a joke. And they keep giving me ammunition to talk about on a weekly basis. When I go to look at the news and this is what pops up, what do y'all expect me to do with this information? What do y'all really expect me to do with this kind of information? What do y'all expect me to do when I find out that guys with broken orbital bones are allowed to wrestle? What do you expect me to do with that? Like, what am I supposed to say to that? What am I supposed to do when guys are jumping off giant 50-foot ramps on tricycles and then showing up in the ring the next swing in an arm sling? What do y'all want me to do with that? Really, y'all want me to start ignoring this stuff? What do y'all want me to do when baby faces are beating down heels in promos because, you know what, they hurt my feelings a little bit, right? What am I supposed to do when Tony Khan announces a never-before-seen surprise and it's fucking Ric Flair? Only to be one-upped by another major announcement that his tickets going on sale. Like, I swear to God, they just announced that Sega is a new sponsor and there's going to be a Sega match in AEW. If Kenny Omega comes out dressed as fucking Sonic the Hedgehog, I'm going to lose my shit. I will lose my shit. I will dress as Sonic the Hedgehog. If Kenny Omega dresses as Sonic the Hedgehog, I will one-up him and dress as Sonic the Hedgehog on this show the following week. I mean, you can't make this shit up, guys. This is the new era of AEW wrestling that we were told about. And we got the Big Show coming out to wrestle with his whole ass body cocked to the left. He don't look okay. The Big Show doesn't look okay. I think he's missing a hip. Like, there's something wrong with him. And you know what Ric Flair's answer is to all this? Let's have a fucking woo-off. Let's repeat something that worked organically and let's force it down the IWC's throat. But this is the weird, perverted wrestling shit that the IWC gets off on. They like this weird shit. I'm done. I can't talk about this shit no more. No Champ in the Chick this week. Like I said, working on the new studio, getting everything lined up. All new shows, all new seasons of all shows will premiere the week of Thanksgiving. That means no casual wrestling podcast this week as well. You'll still get the Monday Night Raw post show. You'll get a Friday Night SmackDown post show this week. Lots of new content coming starting Thanksgiving. New studio in the works. New shows in the work. It's looking like mid-December that we'll launch the new studio. Casual wrestling premium or casual PLE experience with Milwaukee Mike. I am hyped for that. That will start with us talking about Survivor Series, and I can guarantee you that is going to be a fucking CM Punk love fest. That's what that will end up probably being, unless they definitively tell us that CM Punk's not coming. Follow me on Instagram, Casual Wrestling Show. I'm leaving Twitter. I don't like it. It's an echo chamber of people just fucking tweeting things to be heard. I will use Instagram to post some pictures of the studio and things we're doing, schedules, anything that's kind of visual will start to go there. Make sure to join the Discord. Casual Wrestling, like I said, it'll be only featured on Instagram and YouTube from here on out. That's all I've got to plug this week. Share the episode. It's the most important thing that you can do to help this community grow is just share. Share in any wrestling groups you're a part of. Share with your friends. Share it on Facebook. I don't care who you share it with. Let's spread the word, casual wrestling community. Until next time, keep it casual, my friends. I'm tapping out.